Learn English through story. The world is changing. Again. In America, two powers are fighting for the future of money. One is old, heavy, and shining, gold. It built nations, won wars, and gave people faith. For centuries, it was the heart of power, the treasure that never dies. The other is invisible, digital, and fast. Crypto. Born from code, free from banks. A dream of money without masters. Now, these two forces face each other. Old wealth versus new freedom. The vault versus the blockchain. In Washington, in Wall Street, in every phone and every wallet, a silent battle has begun. It's not only about coins or code. It's about belief. Who do we trust? The system, the metal, or the math? From the golden past to the digital tomorrow, this is the story of power, fear, and trust. The story of how America stands between gold and crypto, and how that choice will shape the world. Chapter 1. The Golden Dream. The story begins with a sound, a soft clink, gold. For hundreds of years, that sound meant power. In America, it built cities, wars, and dreams. People trusted it because they could touch it. Heavy, bright, eternal. In the early days of the United States, gold was the promise. It said, "This dollar is real." Every paper note had gold behind it, deep in the vaults of the U.S. Treasury. If you gave the paper back, you could take the gold. Simple, honest, clear. The system worked for a time. Farmers, merchants, and bankers all played by the same rule. Gold was the heart of the economy. It was also the chain that held everything together. But hearts can stop, and chains can break. As the 1900s arrived, America grew fast. Factories smoked. Trains ran. People wanted more. More money, more houses, more dreams. But the gold supply could not grow so fast. It was limited. So the government faced a question. How can we make progress if money cannot move? Then came the Federal Reserve, 1913. A new idea. Let's print paper backed by gold. A promise, not the real thing. Still, people believed. They trusted the paper because they trusted the gold behind it. For decades, it worked. Through wars, through the Great Depression, through rebuilding the world after World War II, America stayed strong. Why? Because the dollar was gold, and gold meant stability. Other nations trusted America's gold too. They sent their money to U.S. banks, believing it was safe. By 1944, the world made it official. The Bretton Woods Agreement. The U.S. dollar became the world's main currency. Every dollar was equal to a fixed amount of gold. And every country trusted that promise. Gold became not just metal, but a symbol of American power. In Fort Knox, guards watched millions of bars stacked like treasure. Politicians visited those rooms in silence. Some said it looked like heaven. Others said it looked like control. But the dream had a cost. Wars in Korea, then Vietnam. The U.S. government spent more than it had. Dollars flowed out. Gold flowed less. Other countries started asking, "Can we still trust your promise?" By the 1960s, the pressure was rising. Too many dollars, not enough gold. The old balance began to shake. Some people whispered, "Maybe America's gold dream is ending." Still, gold never lost its mystery. It shined in jewelry, in coins, in the eyes of investors. It told a story older than any nation, a story of human trust. Because gold has no flag, no password, no algorithm. It is just there, forever. But as America entered a new age, an age of computers, oil, and finance, the old metal started to look slow. People wanted speed. Traders wanted profit. Governments wanted control. And somewhere in the White House, a decision was coming. A single choice that would change money forever. The world didn't know it yet. But the golden dream was about to end. Chapter 2. Nixon's Secret Move. It was a hot August night in 1971. America watched television. Families sat in their living rooms. The president was about to speak. Richard Nixon looked calm. But the world behind him was not. The economy was under pressure. Prices were rising. Foreign countries were asking for gold. Too much gold. For decades, America had promised that every dollar could be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold. But the promise was breaking. There were far more dollars in the world than gold in the vaults. The math didn't work anymore. Nixon leaned forward and began, "My fellow Americans." His voice was slow, confident. But what he said next changed money forever. He announced that the United States would suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold. In simple words, the dollar would no longer be tied to gold. The world gasped. It was the end of the gold standard. Some called it the Nixon shock. Others called it the beginning of a new era. At first, many people didn't understand. They thought, so what? We still have our money. But in truth, something huge had changed. Money was no longer a thing. It became an idea. From that moment, every dollar was backed only by trust. Trust in the U.S. government. Trust in the system. No metal, no weight, just words. Behind closed doors, some of Nixon's advisors smiled. They saw opportunity. Without gold limits, the government could print more money, borrow more, spend more. America could grow faster. But others warned, when money has no anchor, it can drift anywhere. Still, the public stayed calm. Shops opened, salaries were paid, life went on. But deep inside the global system, everything began to move differently. Foreign leaders were angry. France sent ships to New York to collect its gold. But it was too late. The door had closed. The golden window was gone. The dollar started to float. Its value rose and fell with the winds of trade, oil, and politics. Some days it was strong like iron. Other days, weak like paper. Nixon said it was temporary, but temporary became permanent. The world entered the fiat era, money created by governments, not by gold. The change was invisible, but powerful. Credit grew. Banks expanded. Debt became normal. Money became a story, written by those in power. In the years that followed, inflation burned. The price of everything rose: food, gas, rent. People blamed Nixon, but the truth was bigger. America had left the old world of metal and entered the world of promises. Some people celebrated. They said, "This is progress. We are free from gold's limits." Others whispered, "Without gold, there is no truth in money." Economists argued, politicians defended. And quietly, a new kind of empire began to rise. An empire built not on gold, but on credit. Because when you remove the gold, what remains? Belief. And belief can be printed endlessly. In the years ahead, this decision would change everything: trade, power, even the meaning of value itself. But for now, in 1971, the president smiled for the cameras. He told Americans not to worry. He said, "Your dollar will be as good as gold." He was wrong. The dollar would become something else, faster, lighter, and more dangerous. The golden dream was over. The age of paper had begun. Chapter 3. The Rise of the Digital Dollar. The year was 1980. The sound of gold was fading, but a new sound filled the air. The soft hum of computers. Money was changing again. Not in vaults, not in pockets, but inside glowing screens. The world had entered the digital age, and America was ready to lead it. In New York, a new kind of gold rush began. Not in mines, but on Wall Street. Men in suits shouted numbers. Phones rang, screens flashed green and red. They were not trading things anymore. They were trading promises, ideas, and invisible money. The dollar had become electric. It could fly across the world in seconds. No more gold wagons, no more ships. Just signals, flowing through wires. For banks, it was freedom. For America, it was power. Because whoever controlled the system controlled the world's money. But power always comes with a price. Ordinary people didn't understand what was happening. They saw new credit cards, faster payments, and growing dreams. They didn't see the debts behind those dreams. Every swipe, every loan, every click created money that didn't exist before. It was magic, beautiful, and dangerous. Computers turned Wall Street into a game. Rich traders played with billions. They built programs that could buy and sell faster than any human. The markets moved like storms, strong, unpredictable, full of risk. The 1980s brought new kings. Not miners or factory owners, but financiers, men who moved numbers, not steel. Their gold was information. Their tools were machines. The digital dollar gave birth to a new empire, one made of code, contracts, and confidence. Governments printed, banks borrowed, people spent. The more they spent, the more they needed credit. And the more credit they used, the more money the system created. It was endless, and it looked unstoppable. But deep below the surface, cracks began to show. Recessions hit. Inflation returned. People lost houses, jobs, savings. They started to ask, what is money, really? Where does it come from? Who decides its value? The answers were not easy, because money was no longer a thing you could touch. It was just numbers, trusted, because everyone agreed to trust them. Still, the system kept running. Every crash was followed by a rescue. Every fall by a new promise. The Federal Reserve became the doctor of the global economy. injecting dollars whenever the patient felt weak. By the 1990s, money had fully gone online. A TMS, cards, digital transfers, all part of daily life. The idea of holding gold in your hand felt old, almost strange. Why carry metal when you could move millions with one click? America had done it again. It had turned belief into power. But this time, the belief was digital. And as the millennium approached, something even bigger was coming. The internet. People began to dream of money that could move without banks, free, fast, global. It sounded impossible. But the seed was planted. The age of digital finance had begun. And deep in the shadows of that new world, a mysterious idea was waiting. An idea that would challenge everything the dollar stood for. A new kind of gold, a new kind of trust, and a new kind of danger. Chapter 4. The Birth of Bitcoin. The year was 2008. Silence, then panic. Banks were collapsing. People were losing homes. Trust, the invisible gold of the modern world, was breaking apart. It began in America, but it spread everywhere. Big names fell. Lehman Brothers, gone. Stock markets crashed. Governments printed money to save what was left, but many asked, who saves the people? In that dark year, when belief in money was dying, a strange document appeared online. It was only 9 pages long. No company, no address. Just a name at the bottom, Satoshi Nakamoto. The paper's title, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It wasn't just an idea, it was a rebellion. Satoshi wrote, what if we could have money that no bank could control? What if trust could come from math, not from governments? People were curious, then amazed. Could code replace banks? Could freedom live inside a machine? Bitcoin was born, not from gold, not from paper, but from belief in technology. It worked in a new way. No middleman, no central bank. Every transaction was written in a public book, the blockchain. Everyone could see it. No one could change it. For the first time in history, money didn't need permission. At first, almost nobody cared. A few computer geeks mined coins on old laptops. Each coin was worth less than a cent. But they believed. They called themselves miners. Digging digital gold from lines of code. Slowly, the idea spread. Forums, blogs, secret chats. People traded pizzas for Bitcoin. It was small, but real. A quiet revolution was starting. Governments laughed. Banks ignored it. But some saw danger. A currency outside control? That could shake the whole system. Years passed. More people joined. New coins appeared. Bitcoin's price jumped, from cents to dollars, from dollars to hundreds, then to thousands. Suddenly, the world noticed. The same financial world that once rejected it, wanted it. But Bitcoin was not just a currency. It was a question, a mirror held up to the world's money. If trust can be written in code, what is the role of a bank? If value can exist without a country, what is the meaning of a dollar? Some called Satoshi a genius. Others called him a ghost. No one ever found him, or her, or them. Satoshi disappeared. Only the idea remained. And that idea grew stronger. It inspired millions. It frightened governments. It made new millionaires and new enemies. For the first time, the power of money was in the hands of the people. No vault, no president, no permission. But with freedom came chaos, scams, hacks, dark markets. Crypto was light and shadow at the same time. Still, the movement could not be stopped. Bitcoin became a symbol, a flag for those who no longer trusted the system. The banks had their dollars. The people had their code. And deep inside the internet, a quiet war had begun. Between the world that was and the world that was coming. Chapter 5. Power versus Freedom. The news reached Washington. Bitcoin. A new kind of money. Made by no one. Owned by everyone. At first, politicians laughed. It's a toy, they said. A digital game for tech people. But then, the numbers grew. The value exploded. And the laughter stopped. Inside the White House, behind closed doors, people began to worry. What if this thing becomes real? What if it replaces the dollar? The U.S. government had always ruled money. Every dollar, every trade, every wire passed through its eyes. But Bitcoin was wild. It moved across borders like wind. No permission, no control, no stopping it. For America, it was a nightmare and a dream. Some saw opportunity. Crypto could make America the center of innovation again. A new Silicon Valley of finance, new jobs, new power. But others saw danger, criminals, terrorists, tax evaders. They said, if we can't track it, we can't trust it. In Congress, debates began. Some wanted to regulate. Some wanted to ban, and some, the rare few, wanted to understand. Meanwhile, far from Washington's marble halls, a generation of young Americans was building a new world. They called it the crypto revolution. They spoke about freedom, about taking power from the banks, about giving it back to the people. For them, Bitcoin was not just money. It was a message, we don't trust your system anymore. And that message echoed everywhere, in chat rooms, in online markets, in the hearts of people tired of debt, corruption, and endless printing. The old system answered with rules, new taxes, new laws, new warnings. Crypto is risky, they said. But risk was the point. People were ready to take it. The war between power and freedom had begun. Banks built their own coins, safe, regulated, approved. But the people didn't want permission. They wanted independence. They wanted the right to choose what their money meant. Still, the government moved quietly. It watched, it learned, it waited. And behind the scenes, something else was being planned. A digital dollar, fully controlled, fully traceable. If crypto was freedom, the digital dollar would be control. Officials said it would fight crime and make payments faster. But deep down, people asked, will it also watch us? In the name of safety, liberty was shrinking. In the name of progress, privacy was fading. Some Americans stood up and said, this is not what money was meant to be. But others didn't care. As long as life was easy, fast, and digital. Power smiled. Freedom whispered. And the future of money hung between them, like a coin spinning in the air. Which side would land face up? Chapter 6. The Global Race. The world was watching. As America argued about Bitcoin, other nations were already moving. In Beijing, meetings were held in silence. Officials spoke softly, but their goal was clear. Control the future of money. They called it the digital yuan, a state-made cryptocurrency. Fast, powerful, and fully traceable. Every transaction could be seen by the government. No middlemen, no privacy, just total control. China tested it in cities and markets. Shopkeepers scanned phones. Soldiers received salaries in digital cash. Everything worked. Smoothly, efficiently, quietly. To the Chinese government, it was perfect. Money became a tool of power. It could reward, it could punish, it could disappear. In Europe, leaders met in Brussels. They didn't want to be left behind. So they spoke of a new plan. The digital euro. Safe, modern, European. A system that would keep Europe strong against both the dollar and the yuan. Meanwhile, in Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, new ideas bloomed. Countries suffering from inflation began to explore their own digital coins. They said, if we can't trust paper, maybe we can trust code. It was a global race. A race not for land or oil, but for the soul of money itself. And America, still debating, still divided. Some said, we must act now. Others said, don't rush. Let others make the mistakes first. In Silicon Valley, tech giants saw opportunity. They dreamed of private digital currencies, money made by companies, not countries. One of them, Facebook, tried to launch Libra, a global coin for everyone. But governments killed it before it was born. The message was clear. We allow innovation, but not power outside our hands. Still, the movement was unstoppable. People were learning. They wanted faster, cheaper, borderless money. They wanted something that didn't depend on banks or politics. In Nairobi cafes, young developers wrote blockchain code. In São Paulo, traders sent crypto through phones. In Dubai, officials talked about smart cities and digital wealth. The old money world was breaking apart, bit by bit, block by block. For the first time, the US dollar faced real competition. Not from armies or empires, but from algorithms. In Washington, the pressure was rising. Could America still lead in a world where gold, paper, and even banks were losing meaning? The answer wasn't clear. Because the next battlefield was not made of soil or steel. It was made of data, flowing faster than any nation could control. Some said America was too slow. Others said it was too proud. But one thing was certain, the race had already begun. And the winner would decide the rules of the future. Would it be the land of freedom? Or the land of surveillance? The clock was ticking, and the world was watching every move. Chapter 7. The Battle of Belief. Trust. That was always the secret behind money. Not gold, not paper. Trust. But now, the world had three kinds of faith. Some still trusted gold, old, solid, eternal. They said, gold never lies. You can hold it, feel its weight, see its shine. It has no password, no code, no system to fail. It's real. It's human. Others believed in crypto, light, fast, invisible. They said, "We don't trust governments. We trust math." For them, Bitcoin was not just technology. It was a revolution. It gave power back to people. It turned code into freedom. And then there were those who trusted the system. Banks, the Federal Reserve, the old machine of money. They said, stability matters more than dreams. They didn't want chaos or risk. They wanted order, even if it meant control. 3 worlds, 3 beliefs, 1 planet spinning between them. In New York, traders watched gold rise again. In Los Angeles, young investors bought crypto at midnight. In Washington, lawmakers wrote new rules for both. Each side said they were right. Each side said they were saving the world. Gold believers spoke of history. They remembered Rome, Egypt, and kings who lost their power when their gold was gone. They said, without gold, empires fall. Crypto believers spoke of the future. They remembered 2008, banks failing, people losing everything. They said, without freedom, people fall. And the system believers, they spoke of peace. They said, without control, everything falls. But under all those voices was one truth. Everyone was afraid. Afraid of inflation, afraid of collapse, afraid of losing what they trusted most. Even the richest nations trembled, because belief, once broken, is hard to rebuild. Gold shined, but it was slow. Crypto grew, but it was wild. The system worked, but it was fragile. And deep in every heart was the same question. What makes money real? Is it something you can touch, or something you can believe in? A farmer in Texas said, I keep gold in my barn. It never fails. A student in Seoul said, I keep Bitcoin. It never sleeps. A banker in London said, I keep faith in the system. It always returns. 3 answers, 3 truths, 3 kinds of hope. But hope is a strange thing. It can move mountains or destroy them. As inflation burned and debts grew, people ran to all 3. Some bought gold, some bought crypto. Some just prayed the system would survive. The battle was not in markets anymore. It was in minds, in hearts, in trust itself, and in that silent war, no one was sure who was winning. Because gold, crypto, and the dollar all wanted the same thing: to be believed. But belief cannot be printed. It cannot be mined. It cannot be coded. It must be earned. Chapter 8. The Return of Real Value. The storm had returned. Inflation, the silent thief. Prices rose everywhere. Food, rent, fuel, even dreams. Money was losing its meaning. People worked harder, yet felt poorer. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. In markets, investors panicked. In homes, families worried. And in whispers, one word came back again. Gold. Old, heavy, timeless gold. It waited patiently through the years, never changing, never promising too much. Now, once again, people ran to it. They said, gold is safety. Gold is real. But not everyone turned to the past. Some looked forward. They opened their phones, checked their wallets, digital ones. They believed in crypto, not coins. They said, the future is ours. The system has failed. We need a new one, Gold and crypto, two lights in the dark. Both claimed to be real. Both claimed to protect. Both had believers who would never let go. The difference was speed. Gold moved like mountains. Crypto moved like lightning. And yet, both were rising together. Strange, isn't it? Two enemies shining side by side. Because when people lose faith in money, they run to anything that feels real. But what is real in a world made of screens? A bar of gold hidden in a vault, or a code written on the blockchain? In truth, real was no longer about metal or math. It was about meaning. People wanted something honest, something that could not be printed, faked, or deleted. Even governments began to see the danger. The more they printed, the more people escaped. Into gold, into crypto, into anything not controlled by the system. Banks called it capital flight. People called it survival. Then came the headlines, "Central banks buy gold again." Yes, the same institutions that once left it behind were now quietly bringing it back. Because deep down, even power needs safety. Meanwhile, crypto spread like wildfire. New coins, new dreams, new chaos. Some changed lives. Others destroyed them. But the idea, the dream of free money, kept burning. And somewhere between the vault and the cloud, a strange balance appeared. Gold, the oldest metal on earth. Crypto, the newest creation of the mind. Both shining under the same sun. Both symbols of something human. The eternal search for value. But history teaches one truth. When people lose trust in money, they don't just change what they use. They change what they believe. Because money is never just about buying or selling. It's about faith, hope, and fear. It's about who we are and what we choose to trust when everything else falls. And now, as debt climbs higher and currencies tremble, that choice is coming again. Gold or crypto? Old truth or new belief? Maybe both. Maybe neither. But one thing is certain. People will always run towards something they can call real, even if the definition of real keeps changing. Chapter 9. America's Choice. The world was waiting. All eyes on one flag. One country. America. For more than a century, the dollar ruled the earth. It was the language of trade, the promise of trust. Every nation held it. Every market feared it. It was more than money. It was power. But now, that power stood at a crossroads. In Washington, behind closed doors, the great question returned: what will America choose next? The White House wanted order. The Federal Reserve wanted control. Silicon Valley wanted freedom. And the people? They just wanted stability, a future they could believe in. Three forces pulled the country in three directions: gold, crypto, the digital dollar, each with its own dream. In Congress, some argued for a return to gold. They said, real value, real limits, real discipline. Others said, that's the past. The world has moved on. At the same time, crypto was exploding. Millions of Americans were investing. They didn't trust banks anymore. They trusted themselves and their code. But the government was watching. It couldn't allow total freedom. So it planned something new. a central bank digital currency, a digital dollar made by the state. Officials said it would be safe, modern, efficient. Payments would be instant, transparent, global. But under the smooth words, many heard another message: total control. Every transaction could be tracked. Every wallet could be frozen. Money would move, but only with permission. Freedom or security, privacy or power. America had to choose, and the choice would not stay in America alone. Whatever the U.S. decided, the world would follow. If it chose control, the age of surveillance would begin. If it chose freedom, chaos might rise. But so would innovation. In New York, traders watched the charts. In Silicon Valley, coders wrote new coins. In Texas, miners built machines that hummed day and night. And in quiet homes across the nation, people whispered, "What will happen to our money?" The truth was simple. No one really knew. But history teaches this. Every empire is tested not by its gold, but by its belief. Gold gave America its strength. Credit gave it its empire. Crypto gave it its challenge. Now, the future would be decided by faith. Faith in the system, faith in technology, faith in truth itself. Will America build a new kind of money that honors both control and freedom, or will it choose one and lose the other? Some say the answer is already written, that the digital world cannot be stopped. That code is the new Constitution. Others say power never lets go so easily, that the old system will fight until its last breath. Maybe both are right. Maybe the future is not gold or crypto, but a bridge between them. Something yet to be born. The story isn't over. It's only beginning. Because as long as humans believe in something, as long as they trade, build, and dream, money will change, but one truth will remain. Trust is the real treasure. And the nation that understands that best will rule the next age of the world.